What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Brandon's Face. It's the podcast about a playlist. My name is Jonathan Beardsley.
And I am Brandon May.
As always, Brandon and myself are here to do one thing and one thing only, and that is talk about some goddamn music. On this week's show, we'll be talking about new releases from Kx5, M83, All Time Low, Chelsea Grin, Surgeon, T-Pain, FIDLAR, and more. But before we do, we're going to run through some of the more interesting singles to come out recently, starting with this new one from Boys Noize, Pilo, and Devious called Pvssy. Talk to me about this one, man. Give me your thoughts on it.
Well, my thoughts are actually that when Pilo and Boys Noize get together, it is always a good time.
Yes.
I think this is great. I don't think that they'll ever eclipse Cerebral off that first Strictly Raw record, but that's kind of an impossible standard. So I really did like this track. What did you think about it?
I thought it was really good. I don't know if this is their first collaboration since Cerebral, but I think it's a nice reunion if it is. It's got some of that same Strictly Raw sound fused with some of that more Polarity era Boys Noize sound. It's a fucking banger though. It works.
Yeah, that was exactly how I felt. Do you think Devious does like the vocals on this? Or?
Yeah, that's my guess.
For
Which
sure.
were very kind of Rico Nasty girl crush-ish,
Yeah.
which I fucking love. I really dug this one.
Was that your standout from Polarity?
No, that
No.
was on that album is great. So that's like my second or third. My standout from that one was Affection with Abra.
Yeah.
And then I think my second favorite is actually the title track Polarity. That one's fucking rad. But yeah, great one.
Yeah, that whole album's cool.
Moving on, we got a new one from the Chemical Brothers, Brandon.
Mother
a new
of
Chemical
God.
Brothers song. It's called No Reason. Please give me your thoughts on it. I've been dying to hear them.
All right, track 2 of the week, and we've arrived at my song of the week, obviously.
Of course.
So I stayed up and watched the premiere of this video with all of the visuals. If anybody's listening and has not already seen it, go do that. I will leave a link to this video in the show notes because it is fantastic. Yeah, man, that 303 hits fucking hard halfway through. The visuals on the video are, as is tradition, insane on the production value. I would be very surprised if they put that much effort into a single and then didn't announce an album, but they're being pretty secretive about that right now. So I'm assuming that we're in an album rollout. Maybe that's just my my wishful thinking coming across, but holy fuck,
Nothing
man.
official, but we can hope.
Yeah, this was absolutely great.
Yeah, I agree, man. This one is fucking awesome. Great bass line, excellent build, fantastic drop, fun throughout. They did a great job with this one.
They've apparently been dropping this since September in their live sets.
Yeah, they posted that. They said if you've seen them live in like the last year or so that you might have heard this one.
Yeah, but it's glad to have like an official release because I had heard it through
Of course
some
you have.
shaky phone videos from their Portola set specifically. I think it was where was Portola? Was that San Francisco? One of those. So yeah, but I'm glad we got an official release.
If you're not watching shaky phone videos of upcoming demos of your favorite artists, you are not a real fan. I will stand by that.
Straight up.
All right, let's move on to this new one from Fred again, Skrillex, and Fortet called Baby Again. Not much to say about this one other than it's nice to get it. It was played multiple times throughout their couple of days in New York, and some fans were vocally disappointed when it didn't make either of the new Skrillex albums. It's good, not quite as memorable as some of their other more recent collaborations, but it is a good track. How did you feel about it?
Yeah, it's a good one, man. It's another ID from the, at this point, legendary Boiler Room set, as I think when we first heard this. You know, I just really wish that, I really hope, rather, that all the kids that are just, like, discovering house music through Fred again and Skrillex are going to go check out Fortet's music, because that man's a legend.
I think they will. I think there's been a rub, as they would say in pro wrestling. I think some of this will rub off onto the other parties. Fortet probably being the biggest collaborator in the album, both of Skrillex's albums outside of Fred Again.
Yeah. I just got to say that New York pop-up set that I think I had sent it to you when it was live.
The bus
Yeah,
in Times
oh yeah.
Square.
Just
Yeah.
Fortet's big old cheeser smile, bro. You can tell he's not used to that kind of A reception, B type of show, C that much
And I
house. So
and I love that he used that stage to play the country rhythm drop like 3 times in a
yes.
fucking
Yes.
row.
My
God bless
man.
Fortet.
My
He's
man.
awesome. All right, moving on. We got a new one from Ruben Karapetyan called Meteorite. Talk to me about this one.
Just some melodic progressive house. Reminds me of early Lane 8, and I think that this is fucking good.
Yeah, man. I think we're actually getting a new Lane 8 track this week.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
But anyways, back on track. This is one of those tracks where the build feels bigger than the drop. I don't know if I prefer that style or not, but it works here.
It really depends on who does it. I mean, that's melodic progressive house, but it's really like subdued. And it really depends on who does it.
Yeah, I agree. Moving on, we got a new one from Klaas and Minge called Dance on Jupiter. They really don't make them like this anymore, and that might be for the best. This song sounds incredibly dated, both structurally and sonically, but not in a way that really comes across as fun or nostalgic to me. He's an absolute legend forever for his vocal edit of Infinity, but this track just ain't it. I'm happy to see Klaas is still making music, though.
I'm
What were your
sorry.
thoughts on this
I'm
one,
sorry,
man?
John. I'm gonna disagree fully with you.
Please.
This track was in my head all week, just like
Of
his
course it
his
was.
remix of "Where's Your Head At" and the vocal chop edit of "Infinity" and the "Keep on Keeping On" remix he did and or sample he used rather. It's probably not a cleared sample, but yeah, man. I actually got to see Klaas in 2010 at a rave at the Shrine in Los Angeles, and it was a great set. And I think I'm always gonna like his music. And this one, it was funny. I had woken up and there was like this track in my head, and I was like, what am I trying to find? And so I even like went back to like some old Boys Noise songs, and I was like, no, this isn't it. What am I trying to listen to? And then I turned the playlist on, and this track came on, and I was like, oh shit, this has been stuck in my head for like a whole day. Damn.
I'm not going to fight you on this one. One man's trash is another man's treasure. I
Gotta
don't
love
care
it.
about this song one way or the other
Gotta
enough
love
to
it.
fight you on it, but man, there was a time where that Infinity song, like even DJs that did not have anything to do with it would play it and then they would get the rub. I remember fucking
Mm-hmm.
everyone's like, we got to go see Swedish Shagil. He's going to play Infinity. Like that whole sentence right there is just SoCal in 2009 to wrap it up. But
Yep.
yeah, Klaas is a legend. This one just didn't do it for me.
He
But I'm
had-
glad you enjoyed it.
He headlined the rave I went to.
Good. Of course he did. DJ Irene probably opened for him at some time.
There was a couple. There was a couple of good artists, man. Miles Dyson was there. It was a good time.
Those were the days.
They sure
All right,
were.
let's move on to this new one from Claptone called Euphoria. Claptone always release high quality jams. This one's no different. And if we keep averaging one piano house track a week, I will be very happy. How are you feeling about this?
My notes say, "Here's our piano house quota for the week." This is a classic Claptone, man. It's been a while
Yeah.
since we've covered him, and this is great, man.
I agree. Moving on, we got a new one from Alison Goldfrapp called So Hard, So Hot. This track ties nicely into the last one because Claptone did some of the production for her upcoming debut album.
Hell yeah.
That song is actually already out and it's excellent, but I only added the one single to start us off. She was my favorite vocalist on Profound Mysteries by Royksop last year, which was also my EDM album of the year. Her
Sure
vocals
was.
on Impossible were fucking magnetic, and I still love listening to that song. I didn't realize until seeing her album announcement that was her first credited vocal.
Whoa.
That blows my fucking mind. She put out 2 solo singles earlier this year produced by Claptone and Paul Wolford, but didn't formally announce her solo debut until dropping this track, So Hard, So Hot, last week, which is a fucking jam, if I may say.
Oh yeah, it's a jam.
And yeah, and after hearing it, I'm extremely excited for the album, which is scheduled to come out May 12th, which is also the same release date as LPGOB's debut album, as well as some great metal albums. But that's unrelated. That sound should be That should be a really fun week for dance music for us. But
Hell
how are you
yeah.
enjoying this song, man? Are you excited for her new album after hearing it?
Yeah, I'm super stoked for it. I love this. It reminds me of like old '90s electronic, like early ATB, but like with a modern twist. This was some good shit, man.
Yeah, very good. Glad you enjoyed it too. Moving on, we got a new one from Thomas Bangaltar called Mythologies 18 Past Due. This one is fucking beautiful. It's up off his upcoming orchestral like score album. I'm not quite sure of the specifics on it. I've seen some information floating around about it. I wasn't expecting to look forward to it, but after hearing this track, I very much am. This was beautiful. What did you think?
I saw somebody online speculating about the Do Lab both lineup and the surprise guests, and somebody said Daft Punk B2B Mozart would just be great. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this is they're
This
doing
is that.
he's doing that. like Thomas is doing that, man. Yeah, I don't know about you, but I'm a big fan of half of Daft Punk doing classical music. Composition is fantastic, and the orchestra obviously really did it on this one. I'm excited for the full project and wanted to throw one on here because we don't cover a lot of classical.
No.
I don't think I'm really plugged into that scene.
No, you don't have a classical hookup?
I don't. I really don't. Maybe I should.
Maybe you should.
Don't threaten me with a good time here, John.
God, I'm honestly surprised you don't. All right, man. Moving on to the R&B realm of things. We got a new one from Alex Vaughn and Muni Long called I Know You Know, You Know. And to the surprise of absolutely no one, we have arrived at my song of the week. Um, Alex Vaughn is an R&B artist that I discovered sometime late last year when putting together a playlist. We never covered any of her music until now, but I was excited for her to drop some new music so that we could. Turns out her next release was a deluxe edition of her last release, featuring two remixes featuring vocals by Ari Lennox and Summer Walker, as well as a new song with Muni Long, which is the one we're talking about right now. I had my headphones on the first time I hit play on this one and was instantly nodding along to the beat. The vocals are incredible. The whole song has like a really great "the boy is mine" type of back and forth energy to it between Alex and Muni. I'm glad some of the other top R&B acts are working with Alex now because she's quickly proving herself to be in that same class in terms of talent and potential, in my opinion. What did you think of this one, though, man?
Yeah, this is a fantastic track, man. Like you said, those trade offs are just
Very
amazing.
90s.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, they're incredible. If you're interested or anybody else is interested or enjoyed this, you should go back and check her last album out. It was really great. But I feel like the next chapter of her career is going to be the one to watch.
You know, if a lot of the big artists are working with her, she A, clearly has the talent, but B, is probably really good in the studio. I find that the people who get a lot of collaborations in that world, not necessarily just R&B, but more so like vocally, are really like easily creative, I guess is the word I'm looking for. And
Yeah.
they can just kind of like, they don't need to bounce ideas off, they just kind of do it. So I think Alex Vaughn is clearly good at that. So
I think you're right because on her album she had production from Darkchild, who's worked with like Michael Jackson and Beyonce.
Right.
So she's clearly one to work with right now.
Yep.
Moving on, we got a new one from Black called Fatal Attraction. I was hesitating adding this because his album comes out this week, but I kind of feel like he announced the album, dropped one single a week for 3 weeks for those who wanted it, and is dropping the album immediately.
It's perfect rollout.
Yeah, it's a good rollout. I'm not going to hate on it. It's a good song. I'll reserve going in any more on it until we hear the new project in full tomorrow night. But what did you think? Did you have any thoughts on this one?
I'm actually pretty excited for the album, man. I'm really curious how this is all
Good.
going to like translate into a full project. So, yeah, just this track made me think, wow, just give me the album already.
I know, man. Same. Same. We will find out soon enough, though.
Yep.
All right. Moving on, we got a new one from Usher called Glue. Vocally and even physically, Usher does not seem to age. His falsetto can still wash 90% of the current class of R&B artists. The song is kind of gross, both aesthetically and lyrically, but his voice is magic. Did you enjoy it?
That's you hit the nail on the head. The song's not for me, but goddamn his voice.
Yeah, it's kind of disgusting. The artwork is not fun. The lyrical content is pushing it, but dude can sing.
Yep.
And I'm glad to hear him singing and not rapping so much anymore.
There we
That's
go.
nice. Moving on, we got a new one from Nyjah, aka Kirby, and Childish Gambino called Sticky. I got excited when I saw the featuring Childish Gambino, but this is a giant thanks but no thanks from me. It's from the soundtrack from his new show Swarm, and it didn't really increase my desire to see the show or hear the rest of the soundtrack, but I'm sure it's interesting. Did you feel any differently about this one?
Yeah, this is kind of a weird track, man.
Yeah, a little bit, huh?
Yeah, it's a little weird.
Yeah, have you seen any of
didn't
the
hate
stuff
it.
about that show?
No, I have not. I actually also
So,
haven't listened or haven't watched Atlanta, which I heard is very good.
Atlanta was pretty good. I think some seasons were better than others. The Swarm is kind of like a fictitious murder story about the Beehive. It's very weird.
That actually
Yeah,
sounds interesting.
yeah, very weird. Anyways, moving on, we got we got a new one from JPEG Mafia and Danny Brown called Lean Beef Patty. I don't listen to a ton of JPEG or Danny, but when I saw they were gearing up to release a collab album called Scaring the Hose this week, I knew I had to throw some of it on here. Imagine my surprise when the first thing I hear is a sample of I Need a Girl Part 2 to kick things off, followed by the already classic JPEG bar of First Off, Fuck Elon Musk, which, yes, agree. My only issue with this track is the mix. I can't hear a word Danny Brown is saying. That doesn't take away from this track being a lot of fun, though. Did you have fun listening to it like I did?
All right, so yes, I did. It's fun, but I think we need to have the conversation, so we don't have the conversation during the album when it
Let's have
drops.
it.
I think Danny Brown is an incredible rapper. I think his voice is fucking awful. I've never been like a really big fan of JPEG Mafia, and it's probably because I like don't understand it. I just don't think it's maybe for me. It sounds like noise for like the sake of noise, which is like really weird because I like noisy stuff. I like weird experimental music, and JPEG has just never done it for me. But I just needed to get all of that shit off of my chest so I can go into the album with an open mind, which is what I'm going to do. It's going to be very popular. People are already saying there's no way this is going to miss. No way this is going to be bad at all. People are calling it album of the year before it drops. So this is probably one of the most hyped releases of the year so far, for sure.
Definitely. I don't know about all that. They did release another single either yesterday or today that I thought was really good. So I'm looking forward to it. We'll see how it plays out, though. I'm going in with an open mind.
We'll see, man. We'll see if it scares this hoe.
It most definitely will not. All right, let's move on to this new one from Doechi and Kodak Black called What It Is, in parentheses, Block Boy. I don't know if we've talked about Doechii already or not, but I've been obsessed with this girl the past few months. Persuasive with SZA and Stress are permanent fixtures in my rotation. I've been excited to hear how she would follow those tracks up. I wasn't excited to see the with Kodak Black part of this track, but I think it persists without him, or in spite of him, I should say. The hook is very infectious. The verses are good, and she shows that she can carry a note just as good as she can rap. If Kodak was not on this track, it'd probably be my song of the week, but it is what it is. I still love it. How did you feel about it?
I have got a very good friend, shout out to Christian, who is a big fan of Kodak. So I've been really trying to give him a try. It hasn't really worked, but, Kodak Black is who he is. Doechii, however, though, I think we did talk about at least one of her tracks last year.
Okay.
And I will say that even Kodak's verse, I really liked. This song is fucking great, man. I really like this track. This was like great.
Yeah, it has a really good melody to it, and
For
just
sure.
the overall feel of the track is excellent. I think that carries it. Of the Kodak verses I've heard, this is one of the more legible. I'll give him
I
that.
was just gonna say, part of Kodak's charm is how goofy this guy is. Did you see him in court the other day? I think like a
I
couple
did
weeks
not.
ago.
No.
Oh, it's hilarious, bro. He's getting like arraigned or something like that, and he's like, "Hey, judge, can I have some of those Jolly Ranchers?" She's like, "Yeah, sure." I'll throw a link in the show notes because it's actually kind of hilarious.
Oh my
I think he says,
God.
"Can I have one?" and then goes up and takes like 3 or 4 of them.
Oh my God. I would have done the same thing.
It's amazing.
So,
It's amazing,
respect.
man. Respect, like straight up. Dude's goofy as hell.
All those are so fucking sticky on the teeth, man. I'm more of like, I'd be like, do you got a now and later back there or something? Moving on, we got a new one from Battle Tapes called One Night in Burbank. Talk to me about this one.
I have liked every single track of theirs that we've covered so far. It reminds me of like The Faint a little bit.
Hmm. Okay, I could see that.
Like some Dance Macabre, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, a little bit.
yeah, what did you
Yeah,
think about it?
we've covered a few of their tracks now, and I think to the best of my memory, I've enjoyed them all. I don't listen to a ton of 80s inspired electronic dance rock, but they do it as well as anybody, I suppose. Moving on, we got a new one from Drugdealer called Lip Service. Did you enjoy this one?
So this is a band I heard of like late last year. I listened to like some of their stuff, and I've enjoyed most of it so far. It's really catchy indie rock. I don't really see like I don't really see like why they're so popular, but they're good. This isn't bad music.
Yeah, it's some good like yard work on the weekend music.
Yeah, for sure, most definitely.
It's decent. Good stuff. I didn't know that they were very popular though, so good for them.
I mean, they're more popular than you would think. I think that we're looking at almost a million, almost 900,000 monthly listeners
Oh
on
yeah,
Spotify. I mean,
definitely more than I would have assumed.
right.
Moving on, we got a new one from WSTR called Till the Wheels Fall Off. Never heard of this group before, but props to them for making late 90s pop punk like it never went out of style. You have to respect that, right?
Straight up, man. I had actually never heard of them until like a week or so ago, and I clicked follow, and lo and behold, they're apparently releasing an album soon. So,
Oh shit.
yeah, man,
Okay.
this is absolutely exactly what you said. It is like a classic pop punk.
Yeah, like to the T, like pop punk that you and I almost never talk about being this
Right.
straight. We covered a fucking Newfound Glory album this year, and it wasn't this 90s pop
Well,
punk.
well,
It was also an acoustic album.
right.
All right, let's move on to this new one from Heart Attack, man, called Freak of Nature. I don't know if I found this band through the podcast or my own research, but I saw that they were releasing a new album on May 26th. This is the first single off of it. I really enjoyed this track every time that it came on this week. I'm excited to hear the new album. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, man, this is so catchy. I was curious where'd you find this? Maybe we've covered them. I'm not
I
sure.
think I might have found them when I was doing that The Scene Isn't Dead playlist. If you haven't heard them before, then that's where I found them.
Yeah, I don't think that I have heard them before. It actually reminds me a little bit of like I don't know if you remember the band Hawk Nelson.
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
talked about them before.
Yeah, reminds me a little bit of that. So yeah, this was really good, man. I replayed this song quite a bit this week. It's catchy as hell.
Okay, going back, they dropped an EP in 2021, and that's the one that I've heard a few songs off. Pitch Black
Got it.
and Leap Year. Thoughts and Prayers with Z's is the name of that EP.
It's amazing.
All right, man. Let's cover this new one from The Devil Wears Prada called Reaching. This is one of the tracks that will be included in the deluxe edition of Colored Decay. We don't have to cover all of them, but I thought it'd be worth at least checking out the first of the batch, and I'm glad I did because this fucking really good track, man. It's not quite better than anything on the album, but nearly on the same level, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. What about you?
Like you, I can see why it got cut from the album, but I also can see why they would want to release it. The deluxe album cover, if that's what this is that I'm looking at right
It
now,
is,
is
yes.
fucking neat. So it's always good to hear more from them. So I'm still enjoying Color Decay. So
Yeah, it's cool to see them do like a whole just play on it for the deluxe, infuse a bunch of color into the cover. I think that they're going to be releasing 5 new songs, and they've put out like a new vinyl pre-order for this version of
hell
it,
yeah,
if people are interested.
that's awesome.
Moving on, we got a new one from Avenged Sevenfold, fucking kill me, called Nobody.
Should
The
listen
only
to
thing,
this song.
dude, the only thing that I didn't hate about this was that little solo near the end. Everything else is trash to me. Did you enjoy this
Oh no,
like
this
at
is
all?
absolutely fucking terrible. I am so glad that I saw them before M Shadow's voice was just destroyed. The riffs are boring. The pace is boring. I was just super disappointed in this one, man.
It's terrible.
Oh yeah, how far we've come from Waking the Fallen.
Yeah, man. Backcountry.
I will say that when I saw them in like 2013, 2014, one of those, they were very good. This is not it, Chief. Back to the drawing board, boys.
Yep. Do we know if this is part of an album or what?
I mean, I would assume so. They haven't released one in at least a year, a couple of years, maybe.
Yeah,
Last time
we'll
they
see.
released an album.
Expectations are low after
Yeah,
that,
2020.
All right, let's move on to the last single of the week. It's from a group called Lunar Chamber. The song's called Spirit Body and the Scene Half. Tell me your thoughts on it.
So my genre classification for this is some death metal with some razzle dazzle. I didn't hear about these guys until Friday evening, which is why this was a late add to the playlist. So this is the first track I've ever heard from these guys. And if it's
the first track that they've ever uploaded to Spotify.
oh well, there we go. If it's any indication of what their upcoming album will sound like, I am super here for it. So this was neat. What did you think about it?
Dude, well, for a first official track, it's extremely impressive. It's super fucking heavy, goes beyond my realm of knowledge in terms of articulation, but I thought it was really good.
Neat.
All right, let's move on to the EPs. We have a few this week to discuss. First being FIDLAR's EP, That's Life. We thought we covered this EP when they released Centipede a few weeks ago. The only songs on here that we haven't discussed are On Drugs and That's Life, which I don't really have a ton of notes on other than I wasn't expecting an interpolation of Where's Your Head At on this EP, but it was a nice surprise, I guess. The whole EP is a really good time. The singles I wasn't high on at first quickly grew on me enough to finally hit the follow button on their page. I think Centipede is still my standout of the bunch, though. How are you feeling about this one?
Yeah, man, we've basically covered all of this, and I gotta say, I really do enjoy this EP. It is not my favorite FIDLAR project, but I did really like this. They've released a couple of like really good projects, man, and I do recommend you go listen to their album. They're self-titled from 2012 and their 2015 follow-up 2. Both of those are really good albums. So
I will definitely have to check those out. I'll throw them on my listen to next.
yes, sir.
How's your listen to next going, by the way? At like
We're
50 hours right now.
50 hours? You think that's it?
You know, you listen to the Neck Deep album, so I'll give you a break for a while.
I did.
That.
I've been so busy at work, man. It's been crazy. But as of right now, let's see what my listen to next is at. I think you're going to laugh. It is currently sitting at 281 hours and 31 minutes.
Dear God.
I'll get to it, man. I'll get to it, man. Every once in a while, I bring it down to like 40 hours, and I'm like, yeah, man, that's awesome. Because, I mean, honestly, man, they're quick listens. You know, I'll skim through an album, and if I can tell after the first couple tracks if I'm gonna like it or not.
Yeah.
So I will, you know, get this the fuck out of here, and then I'll just move on to the next one. So I'm not gonna be listening to 281 hours of music, but I'll probably listen to a good 100.
That's fair, and I'm sure your system has its benefits, and that you get to everything eventually.
Oh, most definitely.
The Neck Deep album was good, though, right?
It was very good. Did I not say that on the podcast yet?
No. I think you texted me that it was very
okay,
good.
The Neck Deep album is very good.
Yes.
You were right.
Yes, the one album from like 2015 is very good.
Yes, that
All right,
was, I did really enjoy that one.
Let's move on to this EP from Where the Waves Are Born called Sundered. I said last week that this group had an EP coming out soon, but I did not realize that it was coming out the same week we were covering that single. Now that we've heard it, how'd you feel about it?
Okay, man, this band needs some fucking love. This is an absolutely fantastic post-hardcore or melodic metalcore, whatever the fuck you want to call it. I actually have no notes. And I think for a first EP, it is pretty much as good as you can get. This is something that, like, if I had heard it in high school, I would have been telling literally all my friends about it and, like, dying for a t-shirt. I'll be buying some merch from this band as soon as I can. This is top-notch, top-quality shit, man.
Yeah, I'm glad we didn't have to wait long because this one lived up to whatever expectations I had for it based on the one song I'd heard right before its release. But yeah, I don't have a ton about to say about this album either, other than I guess it wins the if this was 2005, this is the band you would have found on MySpace award, which
Most
I don't
definitely.
think we've given out in a while, have we?
No, we haven't. Congratulations, Where the Waves Are Born. Insert clap track here.
Congratulations on this prestigious award.
Your prize is a plain blue t-shirt.
All right, man. Let's cap off the EPs with T-Pain's covers album, cleverly titled On Top of the Covers. Surprisingly, I'm going to dish to you first on this one.
Let's go.
No, I'm saying I'm dishing to you. I
Oh,
want to
you're
hear your
giving it to
thoughts
me?
on this one.
Got it.
Yes, and you will
I'm
see why shortly.
I'm way more curious about your reaction here about a bunch of covers, but I actually thought that these were done exactly how covers should be done. You keep the core of the song intact while throwing your own personal style into it. These are all, in my opinion, fucking great. Had me singing War Pigs all week. Let's go, T-Pain. Like, Don't Stop Believing is so good. Tennessee Whiskey is a good one. Obviously, the War Pigs as the closer. I thought it was good, man. What did you think about T-Pain's On Top of the Covers EP?
It's exactly why I wanted you to go first, Brandon, because I fucking hated this. I hated every second of it. It is not what I wanted at all. These are direct covers, not like reimaginings in his style of music, which is
No
what I was
way.
hoping for. Yeah. No, man. As a T-Pain fan, the less I say about this one, the better. I just did not enjoy it. I'll leave it at that. There's some risks taken. Shout out him. I think that the live shows for this are probably going to be a lot more fun than listening to this album front to back was.
You're
But
telling me you wouldn't sing Don't Stop Believing if you saw T-Pain in concert?
I love this song, especially when amateurs sing the lyrics.
Shut up.
Oh man. No, man. I will never revisit this one. I'm done with it. Did not enjoy it. I don't know what to say, man. I love T-Pain for R&B and hip hop, and this was not that. I was thinking that some of the magic from his tiny desk would translate into something like this, and it just did not. That would be like me expecting Usher to do an album of covers, and then he's like, "I'm just gonna do Aussie songs and shit." I don't know.
Honestly, I would absolutely love to hear Usher's rendition of Iron Man. Are you kidding me,
I'm
bro?
sure you would. Oh, I'm fucking sure you would, Brandon. That fucking like breaks my mind to even try and think about. Like Usher singing Aussie Man. All right. I think that does it for the EPs this week. So
Most
we can move
definitely.
on to the albums. The first of which is the long-awaited K5 self-titled album. K5 is standing for Cascade and Deadmau5. Um, so my reaction to this one's a little weird, so work with me through it. I don't know how an album can live up to expectations while also feeling a tiny bit underwhelming, but I have like a few guesses after listening to this for a while. Deadmau5 and Cascade are both first ballot Hall of Famers when it comes to the EDM scene.
Most
They're
definitely.
two of the pillars on which it is built. From the moment this project was announced, expectations for it were through the roof. The first single, Escape, lived up to those expectations. It delivered what everybody wanted, some sort of modern spiritual successor to I Remember or Move For Me. But what followed wasn't exactly as predictable. Every single released afterwards taught us to not expect anything. Reactions to those singles varied, but I don't think our anticipation for this album ever wavered. By the time we got to the end of the rollout, though, we'd already heard 60% of the album, and I was starting to become a little desensitized to it, especially the stuff we'd heard first, which probably says a lot more about the current format of rolling out a ton of singles before a new album, or just how fast we tend to move on to the next thing in 2023 than it does about the album itself. But the fact that I could be even slightly less excited about hitting play on a joint album between Deadmau5 and Cascade than I thought I would be made me kind of reflect on the path that it took to get here. And I'm sorry if it sounds like I'm talking about the album without talking about the album, but that's the problem. For as good or as great as this album is, we've talked about most of it at length already. With the exception of the closer Unobsidian, there's not a ton of new music on it that I have much of a reaction to. I really enjoy it. I don't have a ton of criticisms on it other than I wish they would have done a few more instrumental tracks maybe. I'm giving this one an 8 for now. My standouts are Escape, Sacrifice, and Unobsidian, but I will definitely be still forming my opinion on this album with subsequent listens. What about you? How are you on it?
All right. What I tried to do, I totally see where you're coming from, John. What I tried to do is I tried to erase my mind of the singles because the rollout was honestly far too long for this. I don't know why they would put out, what is it, six of the tracks as
Yeah.
singles.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, guys. You guys are music industry professionals at this point. You guys should know better than to put out 6 fucking singles. I don't know who wants that, but honestly, they should have just done a show. They should have just announced a Cascade B2B Deadmau5 show and then released the album that day. That's honestly what they should have done, because if they had done that, it would have blown you away. Because this album is in
the dark longer.
Yeah, because honestly, man, this album is fucking good. I think they knocked it right out of the park and into the park on the next town over. The singles we got obviously are good. We talked about that since the rollout started, but I've been really enjoying the deep cuts. I've been skipping the singles, actually. I'm probably going to be enjoying them as the year goes on. Powder Blue is fantastic. Kind of keeps that progressive house feel
good
throughout the track.
Mm-hmm.
Brothers' vocals really bring a cool element to this. When I talk, it's a banger. I love how slowly it progresses and then like how hard it goes at the drop. The real star of the show, though, for me, is Eat Sleep. For a second, I thought they may have sampled Fatboy Slim's Eat Sleep Rave Repeat, but they did not. It was nice to go back to that track again, though. That was fun. I was like,
it's always nice to go back to that one.
This track is fucking insane, bro. The progression, the vocals, the way they add in like little bits during the drop, and then every time a new element is sprinkled in, they add something completely unexpected. The first time I heard Eat Sleep, I was like, the fuck am I listening to, man? I think this track just blew me away. Something completely unlike either of them have kind of ever really been done, and it really goes to showcase how amazing this collaboration of producers actually is. On Obsidian is obviously a top tier house track. Look, man, I loved a lot about this album, and the only thing I didn't like was how long the rollout was, because we got teased way too much. If they had put out Escape as a single, announced their show at the Coliseum, dropped the album the day of or the week later, it would have been fucking perfect, because we would have all been blown away by this at the same time. But instead, we were all just kind of piecemeal fed some singles that ended up, like you said, being 60% of the album. That's a huge tease, bro.
Yeah.
it's like oh, I don't know.
And it might work out to their benefit in terms of how music is monetized now. So maybe there's a layer to that we don't understand. They both have not put out a single album since 2016. There's got to be a reason that they both switched to singles.
Yeah, I mean that's true, especially from artists who are known to put out albums. Cascade's been putting out albums since the early 2000s, so has Deadmau5.
And he still puts out Redux. Deadmau5 still does his Friends compilations. But to wrap up, what was your score on this and standout?
I gave it a 9. Standout, Eat Sleep.
Oh, wow, okay. So we were both pretty much the same on this. Very high on it. Just wish they'd gone about it a little bit differently.
Most definitely.
Got it. Fuck yeah. Well, this one will probably most definitely be in our EDM albums of the year conversation later on. So I'm excited to have that conversation later this year and see what our final opinions on this are.
Yeah, it'll most definitely be in the conversation, I think, depending on what else releases this year.
True. Moving on, we got this new one from M83 called Fantasy. You kind of, I think, got me into M83 a little bit when you started adding his newer stuff to the playlist. I'd really only heard the big Midnight City until then, which is kind of a hot topic at the moment. But before we get into any of that, what were your thoughts on this album?
Well, I actually kind of wanted to get the EDM Bros comment out of the way.
Okay, well, let's talk about it. So should we say what it said first?
Yeah, most definitely.
Okay, so for those who do not know, Midnight City was doing an interview. Or Midnight City.
M83.
Yes, M83 was doing an interview. I'm not sure the publication, I'm sorry. But the quote is, for me, the struggle with being a successful artist with that album, Hurry Up, We're Dreaming, and especially with that track, Midnight City, is that all of a sudden I had this huge EDM following. EDM is probably one of the styles of music that I hate the most. All of a sudden, I have these bro EDM DJs playing my music, and I just can't even care less. Sometimes I wish I could erase that fan base, but I don't even think it's possible to do that. Maybe in a few days, there will be some apps that you can do this with. But yeah, we're going to play a lot of noise. We're going to play a lot of noise music and have some very ambient moments. Big drums, big guitars, big synths, big vocals. So what's your takeaway from that?
So he's right. When Hurry Up We're Dreaming was released, it was 2011. It was right at the start of EDM becoming just massively popular and just ubiquitous throughout our lives. Dubstep was just barely prying its way into the scene, and everybody was trying to party. I saw M83 on this tour in 2012, and you could tell that a ton, definitely not the majority of people though, were there to see him because of Midnight City, which is, I mean, undoubtedly a beautiful track. It did happen to be raining at this unnamed desert festival that night, and the set was absolutely stunning. However, there were people giving light shows to other people at this show. And it was not in the rave tent. It was in a completely separate place, you know. This is obviously not the crowd that M83 is playing to. And honestly, I don't blame them for wanting to play it live. Kind of similar to how MGMT doesn't play kids anymore. I've perceived a light show to kids. I think that he has a point. And I think that... I think that his music, I think that M83's music as a group, as a band, as the creative force behind it, is so much more than Midnight City. I'm sure he loves the money that he makes off of Midnight City, but probably can't stand the attention that comes with that. Because now every single one of his projects every single one of their projects gets compared to Hurry Up We're Dreaming. Every single one of his tracks or singles gets compared to Midnight City. I saw it online as Fantasy was rolling out. People were like, I like Midnight City, or I like Hurry Up We're Dreaming better. And honestly, bro, this is a really good album. So I'm going to jump into the album now.
Please.
I think it's fucking awesome. It drowns the listener in synths and just atmosphere. It absolutely encompasses their career by using acoustic elements, electronic elements, and live drums to create something that would have just been perfectly at home if it were released in the 80s. I think them releasing this in kind of two parts was perfect for the perfect way to roll out this album, because it's kind of easily digestible that way and didn't leave all of their fans hanging. The bass line to Earth to Sea is fantastic. The ambient percussion and subsequent crescendo and then fade out on Deceiver is magnificent. The pan flute on Fantasy was unexpected, but done very tastefully. Another great bass line on this one.
As pan flutes tend to be.
Right. Laura is a synth-laden ballad that, again, sounds like Tears for Fears could have released it on their first album. And while some of the more ambient tracks do tend to drag the record down a little bit in tempo and atmosphere, I feel like it all kind of comes together in a good way. It was everything I wanted with an M83 release. Is it their best? Nah, bro. I still do like Hurry Up We're Dreaming and even Junk a bit better, but this album was still really good, man. I give it somewhere between a 7 and an 8, and my standout was Earth to Sea. What were your thoughts about this record and or that comment?
So, despite enjoying the singles or the EP, part one, whatever it was, I thought the album was fine. It's well performed and produced, but as pleasant as the listening experience was, I found it to be mostly forgettable personally by the time I would get to the end. I found myself enjoying the album the less I paid attention to it, or enjoying it more the less I paid attention to it. I also enjoyed the tracks that we hadn't heard yet a little bit more than the singles they had released. My mileage always varies on ambient, so I'm still a little torn on this one. I'm going to have to revisit it down the road. For now, though, I think I have it in the 6 to 7 range. My standout's Deceiver. That was my personal favorite track.
It's a really good track, man. It was between Earth to Sea or Deceiver for me. So,
in terms of the comment, I don't think he's wrong, although I do think he's being a little desensitive. I don't even know the right word to say. He's just being a little like crass with it. Like, yes, dude,
he's an old man yelling at a cloud, bro.
Yeah, but you are making a fuckload of money off that song, which is affording you the luxury of being able to make albums like this that you and I can still debate, 10 years after that album. I think they just released like a deluxe edition of Hurry Up for its anniversary. Like there's an Eric Pride's remix of Midnight City that has 30 million plays that they're also profiting off of.
Yeah, he probably had to approve that one. We're sitting at close to 853,457,000 streams of Midnight City. So
yeah, it's a giant pop song, essentially. And I get that he's like, I'm not a pop artist, but you don't have to be a pop artist to have a pop song. That just means a lot of fucking people like your song. The fact that not a lot of your other music sounds like that anymore is probably exhausting in terms of the amount of times you have to have the conversation that you're having. Like, hey, I'm not an EDM artist. Even the remix you've heard of this is not me. Like, if you've heard the original, that is me, but it's not really what I want to do all the time anymore. It's got to be exhausting to fucking do that every time, you know? But I thought this was good. I'm still in on M83, even though this project wasn't my favorite of his, much like yours.
Fair, super fair.
All right, let's move on to this all-time low album, Tell Me I'm Alive. I'm just gonna go first and get it straight out of the way. Did not like this one at all. I gave it a few tries, but it is fucking bland. It's tonally repetitive, takes no chances. I found the songwriting to be boring. The music, the lyrics could not connect with any of it. I'm feeling like a 3 to 4 on this one, and I do not have a standout. And I tried. I tried, man. Didn't honestly like any of it. It was I'm only giving it a 3 or 4 because it was like I don't even know the word. It was performed reasonably enough. What was your takeaway for it?
Do you remember when All Time Low was pop punk?
Yeah, like coffee shop soundtrack, that type of era.
Pepperidge Farm remembers too, man. Old pop punk bands that lean like way into the pop thing is obviously like a trope in the scene. And I can't really blame them for like wanting to sell more records and like listening to like a bigger record company that's guiding them, or having to listen to the producers that the record company hired to put them in like fancy studios or whatever, right? What I found with this album is that I actually think the songwriting is still there, and even the riffs are still there on some tracks like English Blood, American Heartache, and Are You There. The problem, in my opinion, doesn't lie in the musicality of these bands, and I'm lumping all of these pop punk bands that went way too pop here together. Because honestly, they haven't changed much since Dirty Work and Don't Panic, which admittedly they had changed from Coffee Shop Soundtrack and So Wrong It's Right. But what has really changed is the mixing. The mixing on these tracks puts the guitar up front sometimes, and then like pulls it back as if to like muffle or lessen the impact that the riffs would have otherwise. We get like a lot of that on this album, and we have gotten that, and this album actually really made me think about it. Like, okay, what the fuck is actually happening to these bands to make them sound like there's no fucking heart there? I think that there's a way to sound more mature and not completely change up the way you're perceived in the scene. Take Blink-182's self-titled record. It has some of their best riffs, and nobody is trying to hide that. There's more melody and there's less dick jokes for sure, but there's like an obvious air of maturity on the album. But
still some dick jokes.
It was still not all the dick jokes, but I mean, honestly, it holds up as one of the best albums that pop punk has ever birthed, in my opinion, obviously, because all of these are opinions and none of them matter. But look, man, I really wanted to like this album, and I liked it far less than I wanted to. And quite honestly, that's been par for the course with All Time Low ever since they've released the classic So Wrong It's Right, man. Every album after that has been overproduced pop garbage that has been mixed with radio in mind. Are they getting any radio play? What fucking radio station is playing this?
That song with Black Bear like 2-3 years ago got a lot of radio play, but other than that, not much.
Yeah, I gave it somewhere between a 4 and a 5. If I had to pick a standout, it's English Blood, American Heartache, because the riffs come in, and whoever mixed this album was like, have these riffs, and I was like, yeah, here's the riffs, and then they pulled them back for me anyways, even on that same fucking track. But yeah, man, it's just I think that if they recorded this album the way they wanted to and had like the same dude who mixed So Wrong It's Right mix it, I think it would have been fucking awesome. But it is not.
That's an interesting thought. I would hear it mixed differently, but I don't know. There was a lot I couldn't connect with on this album beyond the mix,
Fair.
Although I will agree that was a flaw. They're just one of those bands that does not do it for me anymore. But I agree. So Wrong It's Right is a classic. Coffee Shop Soundtrack, great stuff. And they're clearly still successful despite us not liking their newer stuff. So more power to them. I just did not enjoy this one.
Yes, 7 million monthly listeners. I wonder how many of those are Dear Maria alone.
Good God. Great song. That's their Midnight City. All right, man. Let's move on to this new one from Chelsea Grin, Suffer in Heaven. This this fucking album is exactly what I expected it to be based on the first part and the singles that we've heard so far. I felt like after Fathomless Maw, I was just numb to everything. Like that's one of those just obliterate everything in sight kind of tracks. We had a lot to cover this week, so I didn't get to listen to this one as much as I would have liked, but I thought it was really good. We've been breaking down a good amount of metal though lately, so maybe I'll just revisit this one down the road when I can pick up more of the nuances in this sea of insanity. I'm going to give it a 7. My standout is Fathomless Maw. What were your reactions to it?
All right, so we have here Chelsea Grin's Suffer in Heaven, and it is a 26-minute and 58-second breakdown. That's it. That's my review. I'm just kidding. Am I?
I'd be happy if it was, too.
We got another one from Chelsea Grin, man. It's just as good from Suffer in Hell, if not the like better. I don't know. It's they're honestly, they should be listened to together. They should have just released an entire thing. But look, man, I don't really know what else to say here. This entire album is just 26 minutes of fucking awesome. Orc March is heavy as fuck. Fathomless Maw has perfected the intro as the instrumentals come in fucking hard during that terror opener. Doomy as hell breakdown on this one too, man. Tom Barber just flexes every single one of the times he switches between highs and lows on Soul Slave. The electronic elements in Yorm the Giant are insane. One of them is clearly a Dark Souls fan. I think the bass being the lead on Sing to the Grave is a great choice and fucking badass. Overall, man, these guys did it again. I'm gonna give it the same that I gave Suffer in Hell, and that's an 8 out of 10. My standout on this one was obviously Fathomless Maw. This is
of course
that's the best. It's the best song on this album.
Has to fucking be,
For
right?
Sure.
All right, let's cap this week off with this new one from Surgeon called Crash Recoil. I know you just spoke on Chelsea Grin, but give me your thoughts on this one.
Oh boy, you know I liked this one. Look, man, I actually wasn't expecting a full album from our boy Surgeon, but holy shit did he deliver, man. This is it's going to be a short review for me because it's kind of weird to review techno, like on a musical level, in my opinion. But look, man, Surgeon kind of takes us on this industrial journey filled with like different drum loops within tracks, progressively building synth work, percussion that sounds like it was done on like modular synths, and just masterful bass lines. I loved all of this, and it was a near daily listen for me. I am unsure of his production process, but he needs to keep doing whatever the fuck it is he does. I love how each track is something that you don't expect, yet it works so well as it like changes and then comes back. These are all just German club bangers, and I'm sure he's going to tear up Tresser with this one. I gave this one somewhere between an 8 and a 9. My standout was We Laugh and Clap at the Circus.
Hey, yeah, you're right. So it's been a while since we'd heard a full project from a techno artist, right?
Right. Since probably Stefan Bodzin, but I don't know. That can sometimes even be considered house, depending on who you ask.
Sure. But I the sentiment is still the same. And it kind of bums me out that we don't get a lot of projects, like full-length projects from techno artists, because they can be a lot of fun at times like this one is. It's also a very well-balanced project. It's consistent without being repetitive, and it's aggressive without being overbearing. It's a tough line to walk, and he does it with ease. Like you said, it's kind of a tough album to score as well from a musicality standpoint. I think I'm going to give it a 7 for now. My standout was either Oak Bank or Metal Pig. I really enjoyed those
Oak Bank is a good one, man. That's a great opener for an album.
Fantastic opener.
You know,
fantastic opener.
It's funny, man. If we're on the subject of techno, like techno albums, I think that techno artists get this like weird thing about albums. If you go and listen to Maceo Plex, he put out an album in I think 2018 called Solar, which was he actually named his son Solar, but so the album is so much different than any of his other singles, and it's like so weird that they get this like this needs to be different, this needs to be like more atmospheric and like not something I would play at a club. And it's like, bro, you can put out an album. Surgeon just did it, bro. You can put out an entire album that's almost an hour long of just fucking industrial techno bangers and have it be good. It doesn't need to be this masterful creative project in order to A, be successful, or B, be like talked about. So I don't know. I feel like that's why we don't hear a lot of techno albums. There is an album that we should have covered last year, but we didn't. I caught it late and we were very busy towards the end of the year. But Sven Väth put out an entire album
that's
last
right.
year. Which I've listened to and it's good. But you know, techno albums are weird. But I previewed this one and I was like, oh, he did all bangers. Let's go.
Well, I'm always combing like release calendars on different websites to check for stuff, and I just don't see a lot of techno releases pop up. So if you see any coming up that might be under my radar, let me know and I'll try and get them on our release calendar.
I will do so, sir.
Speaking of our release calendar, you want to know what we're going to be talking about next week?
You know I do.
So next week is going to be fucking massive, man. We're going to be talking about new projects from Black, August Burns Red, Fall Out Boy, Hit Boy, JPEGMAFIA, Danny Brown, Lana Del Rey, and Nea Obliviscaris.
Jesus
Dear
fucking Christ.
God. Yeah, man, we're in the middle of it right now. Every week, just heaters nonstop. I love it. I can't wait. If you guys enjoyed the show, please like, follow, and subscribe. Tune in next Thursday to hear our thoughts on all of those and more. See you then.
Peace.
Peace.